Back to page 8 of Module 7, Lesson 4, student page A. We're right in the middle of going over this example with 2 points. One question I did not go over that sometimes students ask is they say, how do you know which one's X1, which one's Y1? Is it always the first point? You get a pick. You could call this one X1, Y1, and this one X2, Y2. As long as the subscripts match on each point, you could call this X3, Y3, and this X4, Y4. Doesn't really matter what you call them as long as X is the first, Y is the second, and the little subscripts match. So like I said, I picked the easiest number with the least negative. So this had a little smaller number, so I picked it. But I would have gotten the same answer had I picked this. I just want you to know, so there's no magic trick. Pick any point you want. So right at the end of the video, we had found the slope. And so now we have our M. We picked this point as our X1 and Y1. So X1 was -1, Y1 was 3, or you could have said X1 was 4 and Y1 -5, whatever you like. Then we plug it into our equation. So let me write the equation down again just so you can see it. So it's Y minus Y1 equals M times X minus X1. Studies show you learn something by writing it 7 times. So every time you start a new problem, write the formula again, and then you'll have it in your head. So Y minus, Y sub 1 is 3, equals M -8/5, parentheses, X minus, and then X sub 1 was -1. So there's a double negative there, so make that positive. Double negatives are always taken care of at the very beginning. So there was a minus in the formula, and X sub 1 was -1. So that's where the double negative came from. So then I rewrote it down here for you. And then just like on the last problem, then you distribute. So Y minus 3 equals -8/5 times X and -8/5. And then this is what I wanted to write. I just didn't know how to do it with the computer, so I put it in a string. So Y minus 3 plus 3, -8/5 X minus 8/5 plus 3. So this one, obviously, we're trying to get Y alone, because remember, our goal is to make it look like Y equals MX plus B. So on your calculator then, type in -8 fraction bar 5. Oops, off the screen. Let's get over here. So -8 fraction bar 5, and then plus 3, and it'll give you the number you need, 1 2/5. So you bring that down, and then when this is canceled, and then when you add those two together, you get that. So not so bad, a little long. I would say there's probably between page 7 and page 8, probably at least four of these on your test and final. So this is a pretty big topic. Of the things we learn in this class, there's probably 3 that are so important. The first one was solving equations, which we did in Module 5. The second one was slope, which we did in Module 6 and again in Module 7. And the third huge thing is being able to write an equation of a line. So those are our 3 really big topics that we can't let anyone leave the class unless they know how to do those 3, because they're going to be needed in every other math class you take. Okay, so let's go to our last page. Probably going to have to do another video for all of it, but we should be able to get most of this on this video. So now we're going to practice what we just did the 2 examples with. So write an equation of a line, and it could say a linear function, a linear equation. This one's just write the equation. So the minute I see that, I know my final answer is going to look like this. And if they give me a slope and a point, I know to use the point slope form. So I immediately jump down and write the point slope formula. I'm going to turn this page behind me over so it doesn't leak, because this pen is kind of leaky. Sorry about the paper rustling. Okay. So y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So this is a plain old everyday plug and chug, because this is m, and there's only 1 point, so this has to be my x1 and my y1. So I literally plug it in and chug it out. Solve for y, and you're done. So y minus, and I always write the formula first so I can just plug in as I go down. Y sub 1 is negative 1, so there's our first double negative. So a minus from the formula, and y sub 1 is negative. Equals m5 times x minus, and I put 2. And a lot of students get these two mixed around. You got to remember, we start with y and slope, because doesn't this formula come from the slope formula? Remember how I showed you to cross multiply? So that's why we have to remember, start with the y, x goes here. And so now all you have to do is solve for y, and you are done. So let's first make the double negative, and this should be the first step on every equation. If there's any double negatives, make it plus. So we're going to get, I'm going to go over here, y plus 1 equals, and then we distribute just like we did on the last problem. So that'd be 5x minus 10. And remember, it is multiplication because there's no symbol there. 5 times x, 5x. 5 times negative 2, negative 10. And now we only have one step to make it look like that. We need this over there. And don't forget, when you bring it across an equal sign, you have to do the opposite. So don't get sloppy on your Module 5 stuff. So 5x minus 11. Boom. Done. So that's pretty fun and easy, right? So we have 2 of each type. So before we go on to 2, I would shut off the video and try 2 on your own, because it uses the calculator, and I know I gave you one on your test with whole numbers, one with fractions, so you should be able to do both. So go ahead and shut this off and try 2 on your own first, and then turn it back on and we'll go over it together. So write the equation, tells me to immediately write my point slope form. Y minus y sub 1 equals m parentheses x minus x sub 1. And so let's go up here and label. So here's my m, here's my x sub 1, and here's my y sub 1. So again, they gave me everything I need. All I have to do is plug and chug. So y minus y sub 1, negative 4. So there's a double negative again, minus from the formula, and y sub 1's negative 4. Equals, in place of m, hopefully you put negative 2/3. And like I said, usually when we write it, we tuck that negative up front because it's really easy to lose it when it's in the middle. So we just usually tuck it up there with the top number. X minus x sub 1 is negative 3. Ooh, 2 double negatives in this problem. And sometimes students say it helps them if they underline the places they're going to be plugging in. So that second y, m, and the second x listed. So double negative, immediately change those. Don't do any distribution, any adding or subtracting from side to side until you get that double negative turned to positive. So now we have y plus 4 equals negative 2/3 times x. So just write negative 2/3 x. And then we have, and if you can't do this one in your head, go ahead and pull your calculator out. Let's go over here. So it's negative 2/3 times positive 3. So negative 2 fraction bar 3 times positive 3. So see my screen? It's exactly what we have. Oops, let me scoot over a little bit more. So it's exactly what we were doing there. Negative 2/3 times positive 3. And that just gives me negative 2. Almost done. What's my next step? Subtract 4, subtract 4. Remember, we want our final answers to all look like y equals mx plus b. And they're telling you slope-intercept form, slope-intercept form. That means they want your final answer to be solved for y. So then we subtract 4, subtract 4. That's gone, and we get y equals negative 2/3 x, and make sure when you're bringing that number over, you put it underneath its like term, not underneath the x term, and then that will be minus 6. So that's not so bad, right? For being one of the main focuses of this class. Writing equations and solving equations, 2 of the biggies, and then add in slope and rate of change. Okay, I think we have time for one more, and then while I'm getting the next video booted up, you should do number 4 on your own before you turn it on. Okay, so 3 and 4 are different. Do you see why they're different? Neither one of them gives us the slope. So we're missing the slope. So these are the 2 that require an extra step at the beginning. First, you have to find the slope. Because see how the other ones gave me the slope, gave me the slope. But these 2 do not. So the minute you see 2 points, that should just be second nature. Oh, 2 points. Got to find the slope. So second y minus the first y, which is negative 8, another double negative, over second x, negative 5, minus the first x, 7, not a double negative there because that 7's positive. So make that double negative positive. And so that's going to give us what? 11 over negative 12. And do you remember that question on the Module 5 test? Some of you missed it. That's the same thing as this. We never want the negative in the denominator. So immediately move it up or put it in the middle. But like I said, in the middle it tends to get lost. So up there it's probably not going to get lost. So 11 over negative 12 is the same thing as negative 11/12. So now we have our m. And remember when we were going over the example, I said pick the smallest point with the least number of negatives. Well, they both have 1 negative. This one has a little smaller number, so I'm going to pick that. So this is when I go into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I will tell you the biggest mistake on this on the test. Students find this and they go, oh, found the slope. Well, don't forget what the directions say. You can't stop when you find the slope. That means your final answer should be y equals mx plus b. This is not y equals mx plus b. This is only the first step. So don't stop after finding the slope if it asks you to write the equation. The only time you would stop here if the direction said find the slope, period. Then yes, you would stop. But this wants an equation, so I don't stop until I get something that looks like y equals mx plus b, because they're telling me slope-intercept form. So it's time to plug and chug. So y minus, what's y sub 1? 3. What's m? Negative 11/12. X minus, what's x sub 1? Negative 5. Ooh, there's that double negative again. Okay, so we immediately make double negatives positive. And we only have 30 seconds, so I'm going to stop this video here and I'll pick up. So that way you can finish 3 using your calculator and do 4. And then we'll check them as you turn on the next video. See you in a bit.